Thank you. Video बंद है. Good morning everyone.
Good
I,
morning.
Harish Shugani, Secretary of Tax Friends Mumbai, once again welcome all respected dignitaries, respected delegates, and respected conference team members to day 2 of National Tax Conference organized by Consortium of Professional Associations led by Tax Friends Mumbai. Friends, before starting this fourth session, I would like to wish our conference chairman, Mr. Vijay Keval Ramani, a happy birthday, a very, very, very nice happy birthday to him.
Very good, very good.
I request everyone to wish him at a later stage in the valedictory session. But for this, before we start this fourth session, I would like to just quote three, four lines for our conference team members and the delegates, those who are present over here, because without them, this conference would never have been so successful. I would just like to say in the scenario of this COVID-19, कि जो मुस्कुरा रहा है, उसे दर्द ने पाला होगा, जो चल रहा है, उसके पाँव में छाला होगा, बिना संघर्ष के इंसान चमक नहीं सकता यारों, जो जलेगा उसी दिए में तो उजाला होगा. With these words, I start the fourth session because it is the efforts of all the team members that we have reached on the day 2 of National Tax Conference, a virtual National Tax Conference. So for the fourth session, I welcome the following dignitaries on the dais. Shri P.C. Joshi, Chairman of the session. C.A. Madhukar Hiregange, Speaker of the session. C.A. Ashok Magnani, Tax Friends. Shri C.L. Bhanushali, Past President of Tax Practitioner Association. I invite C.A. Ashok Magnani to introduce Chairman and Speaker of this session. Over to you, Mr. Ashok.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks to the team giving me opportunity to introduce the luminary of the profession, Chairman of Day's first session, Senior Advocate Shri P.C. Joshi sir, and the Speaker of the session, Shri Madhukar Hirengane sir, on the second day of this hugely appreciated and successful first ever virtual tax conference. No words are enough for the leadership of this conference. My IPP, Shri Vijay Keval Ramani, and my President of Tax Friends, Shri Atam Tekchandani, and other esteemed sister organizations under the guidance of Doyen of the profession, Shri J.D. Nankani sir, has put up a tremendous show. But let us all keep it all reserved for the valedictory session upcoming this evening. I have been to some extent challenged to introduce the man we all know, chosen as the man of the millennium by AIFTP and someone who has appeared on the front page of Newsweek International. Really, Chairman of the session, Joshi sir, doesn't need any introduction to most of the seniors and other members present. Joshi sir is past president of AIFTP, Celtex Tribunal Bar Association of Maharashtra, STPAM, now known as GST Practitioners Association of Maharashtra, the Chamber of Tax Consultants, and also of the Joint International Federation. The Income Tax Review, ITRs, and the Sale Tax Review, STRs, which we all refer day in and day out. The case laws we quote before every level of tax and judicial authorities, tribunals, courts, the famous journals, lifeline of every person who deals in tax laws have been edited by P.C. Joshi sir for a number of years. Sir has represented India internationally at various conferences, including at Law Society of England and Wales, at Manila Conference as speaker as well as a delegate. His contribution was published by the Newsweek International magazine in a special edition with picture on the front page. Least we can say, P.C. Joshi sir has spent almost entire life for the service and the development of the profession by sharing his knowledge, wisdom, time, and energy. We all wish P.C. Joshi sir good health and seek his blessings and pray to God Almighty that he continues to guide us, enlighten us for 100 more years.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Ashok. Hello. Hello.
Now I will introduce
Yeah, Ashok, carry on.
Yeah. Speaker of the session, CA Madhukar Hirangange sir. The speaker of the session, a great leader, academician par excellence, believes in an ethical, value-based practice and life. Was Central Council member of ICI for 2 terms, 2010 to 13, 2016 to 19. In these 6 years, he earned a name as a conscious keeper of the Central Council, a chairman of Indirect Tax Committee, led ICI in the crucial times of GST implementation in the year 16 to 19. He had privilege of leading the wonderful and contributing team of ICI and gained respect of across the spectrum of professionals, bureaucrats, and politicians for his efforts to make indirect tax law in India simple, certain, and fair, and creating an awareness of the potential of knowledge of indirect taxes in India. He has been an extremely successful professional as senior partner of Hirangange and Associates, having offices in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Visakhapatnam, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Guwahati, Noida, and Gurgaon, and collaboration with firms in Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, network about more than 50 firms in Kerala, Karnataka, and Goa. He has been focusing on indirect tax review audits, concentrating on building processes and mitigate and prevent non-compliances. He has authored several books in pre-GST era on central excise, service tax, Karnataka VAT, central excise, service tax audit, IPCC study material of the Institute, CST Act. In GST era, he has published about 10 books on GST classification and exemption, compendium of issues and solutions in GST, CST, audit, abridged compendium, sectorial books on real estate and textiles. He is also upcoming with several books, including on how to tackle GST problems, department audit manual, then GST procedural book, and legal precedents are upcoming during next year. He is very active online, spreading knowledge and awareness through online articles and workshops through his website, hirangangeacademy.com, and on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. He has been mentoring several professionals directly or as managing trustee of Empower Education Foundation or through Hirangange Academy. Has empowered and mentored lakhs of CAs and other professionals in industry and practice, and also students with knowledge, and urged them to take up ethical practice in indirect taxes with knowledge, facilitated their employability and skills in indirect taxation. Friends, such are the people and men on the earth. On men, the earth rotates on their shoulders, and we all owe our success to them as they have enlightened our path on which we walk in our professional lives. Please welcome my chairman of the session and speaker of session.
Thank you, Ashok ji.
Thank you, dear. Thank you very much.
Yes, Ashok ji.
Over to Harish, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ashok. I now invite our chairman, Shri P.C. Joshi sir, to present his introductory remarks for the session. Mr. Joshi sir.
Thank you very much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. At the outset, let me congratulate and wish many happy returns of the day to my dear friend Vijay Keval Ramani. He was the instrument, he is the instrumental for thinking of, planning a unique experiment of holding a national tax conference, virtual national tax conference. We have been attending physical national tax conferences in the past, is okay. But this is a unique experiment, which at the beginning when Vijay told me, I had my own doubts about its success. But the very fact that it has gone beyond 500 enrollments goes itself shows that many hours must have been spent by the team led by Mr. Vijay Keval Ramani, Ashok, Mr. Jagtandani, and all. Hats off to them. Really marvelous thinking of the conference. Now, about this conference, I may again refer to Mr. Hiragange. You know, good old days, when we were thinking of tax planning, we always think of Gujarat. When we think of controversies, we always think of Karnataka. And we could not have got a better person than Mr. Madhukar Hiragange to speak on how to proceed after the culmination of this pandemic period within which we are today even going on. You will be surprised to know that the superstar Amitabh Bachchan and his son, they both are admitted today in the hospital because they have tested positive. So therefore, we are still not out of the pandemic, and therefore it is really hazardous to know how to work out the planning of post practice or post COVID practice. But still, I will share my thoughts as to how to begin with the practice which has been suspended since, at least as far as I am concerned, since 17th March, I am at home. 17th March means more than 4 months have gone by now. So, it is really difficult for us to, how do we proceed further? I assume that the pandemic period will be over at least by 15th of August. That's my expectation. It will go definitely beyond 31st July. That is sure. It will go, but my expectation is that by 15th August we should be in a position to attend our office regularly. Because as far as Bombay and Thane is concerned, they are still under the lockdown. We cannot go out. So therefore, we cannot do it. But I must say that though this COVID is invisible, as yet it is invincible. Let me tell you, it is invincible. As of today, it is invincible. You just cannot surmount it. There is no vaccine available, and therefore we can say that it is invincible as on today. Now, what is the impact of COVID on our profession? I would restrict myself to our own profession only. Apart from the general impact which Mr. Hiragange will refer to. But first is our financial status. We as a professional people have no other income, and therefore I would say the first and foremost impact which we have suffered because of this long period is the financial lack of receipt of fees. Second, during this period of 4 months or so, we will have to pay to our staff the salaries, because it is not their fault that they are not attending. Because of this problem, they are not attending. And therefore, we will have to pay as a moral duty, not legal. Legally, it is not at all necessary to pay fees, because what is salary? Salary is what you work, you get the salary. But when you don't work, you don't get the salary. But that's not the thing as far as we are concerned, because morally, it's a moral duty for us to look after the family of our staff. And therefore, that second aspect, which we will have to bear as far as this period is concerned. Then the next, which I have thought of, is there is complete dislocation between ourselves and the clients. Complete disclosure of communication. There is no communication. I mean, through, of course, net we talk, but then as physical, we cannot see anything. Then there is a thing is, suppose we start on 15th of August, then what we will have to do? We will have to re-establish the communication between clients, work out how do we start in the beginning. Then first thing is we will have to issue reminder to clients for outstanding fees. Whatever are pending, they will have to make the payment now. But as far as bills are concerned, our bills, see, Rule 47 of the VAT Act provide that we have to issue invoice within a period of 30 days from the date of service. In case for the later half of March or for that matter month of March, if we have not issued the invoice, you can take help of the Supreme Court judgment, Supreme Court order, whereby it says that limitations expiring during the pandemic period will get extended. So therefore, as far as the limitation under Rule 47 is concerned, you will get the benefit and therefore you can issue the invoice of outstanding work already done for which bill has not been issued. Then we will have to start afresh with the briefs. We'll have to get ourselves again, refresh our memory, our mind with the facts of each case, and then work out if necessary, discuss with your junior and clients also. And that's I'm talking about only when physical meeting is possible. And that I would envisage after 15th of August, possible if it is there. Then we will have to approach the tribunal or the court for moving with the cases to be fixed before the board or to be heard, placed on the board for hearing. And then prepare ourselves with the briefs that for the cases that is coming up, prepare the notes and then be ready with the compilations of judgments and your note to be circulated in advance. Now, again, when you are preparing the case, one will have to consider what is the updated position in law. And that reminds me of several cases, several judgments, several orders from Advanced Ruling Authority. In my view, the Advanced Ruling Authority is not at all working in a manner which it is expected to be. It is ceased to be a judicial authority. It is virtually a revenue-making authority. And therefore, I personally do not normally advise my clients to approach Advanced Ruling Authority because it is, in my view, initiation of litigation as we find in excise adjudication. This is initiation of the litigation. If you want to start, then you can go for a approach because their orders I have seen many of cases, either the relevant provisions of law, relevant facts which are important, which has an impact on the judgment, the order, or either they are overlooked or ignored for obvious reasons. And therefore, it is very hazardous for us to proceed further as far as this AR is concerned. And if at all AR is against you, then please be sure about the facts that was before the Advanced Ruling Authority. Try to distinguish with your case. And then that is how you will have to make out the case. These are all a few points which I thought to share with you as far as the scenario we will face on 15th of August on the assumption that the pandemic period will be over by 15th of August. Thank you very much, Mr. Hirangange. I would request you to guide us in the best manner you can, because what I have done as a tax professional, but you have got a vast experience all over the world, and therefore I would expect something new from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Sir, for sharing your views and blessing the occasion. And I now invite our learned speaker, CA Mr. Madhukar Hiregange, to take the proceedings further. Sir, please.
Very good morning to all the participants, viewers who have joined in. It's a wonderful way of spending our Sunday morning in learning. I would like to thank the various tax bars which have made this possible, and specifically Kamlesh ji, who invited me first. I would be looking at where we are broadly. Most of you also would know 80% of whatever I speak today, because the topic given to me is something in general. I also can tell you, and anybody else also, including the people who come to our house for help, if at all they are allowed, even they would be having a very good idea. So I think in a general subject, I would be covering some aspects from the professional side. If I look at it straight, I am known to be straight. And I think that this pandemic is not going to go away till December. There may be some opening of the lockdown, then there will be again a closing. In Karnataka, we had the lockdown opening on 4th of May, but again they are closing it on 14th of this month for a week, they say. But you never know, that could get extended. And as far as I see that Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu are even, I would say, worse off. But I think everywhere we find it's catching up. So there's nothing called this is the way out or that is the way out. We are also finding in the newspapers that treatments are coming, but the cure nobody is talking about. So until the cure is there, we possibly cannot be so confident in moving out. Joshi sir, my chairman, who is a mentor to the tax bar for decades now, rightly stressed that today we have a situation where our inflow has got very limited, whereas our expenses, fixed expenses continue, rent, salary would be the highest, of course. From our firm's perspective also, we have still not opened 3 locations, Pune, Mumbai and Chennai. Wherever we are open, we are finding only a threadbare number of people coming, because they are all fearing to come to the bigger cities if they are already in a smaller place. At least 40% to 50% of our staff is from smaller towns, like they would be for you also. So they are not coming, they are staying at home. The ladies are absolutely not coming. Information from clients is coming slow from those who are able to work from home, and those who have started have thought, okay, let us get this compliance at least out of the way. So chartered accountants, I think, are able to do some part of the work, audit work, remotely. Luckily, there are tools which are available, and also the way in which audit is done, desk review is part of it. Earlier, we only used to spend a little time on desk review. Now I think we spend 70% of the time where we complete 70% of the work without having to go to the client's place at all. As far as the litigation and other aspects are concerned, I think again the department has been told to go slow, and I don't expect much activity till the next year, 2021. Even when they are open, they are asking us not to come. In some cases, many times where clients are called, clients are not able to go. Yesterday, a client came and the accountant's father has COVID, so the accountant cannot go. And department had called him for a brief chat. Online appearances have started, but I understand they are also having a number of challenges. With this background, I would like to take the session forward with briefly on the pandemic, and then the taxes and compliances, what could be the impact. Again, I'm only guesstimating. The issues and resolution of some issues, I may just touch on them because I think most of you have come to see if one or two best practices can be taken up. And as I have changed the topic to interim period of pandemic also, because from now till December, we have a good 6 months available and we can't continue not to do the best practices. I will also share what our office has done and what our office has not done. With that, I will close, and if there is any time for questions, we'll take it. The reality is that the news is not too bad. GDP is estimated to contract only by 4.5 to 5.5% in 2021. Instead of a growth, we'll have a negative growth. But even then, considering the type of news we are hearing, many of us were wondering whether any business at all will happen. But surprisingly, quite a lot of business is happening. The collection of 90,000 crores in last month, GST, also indicates that things are not so bad. Maybe 70% is the GST collection possible going forward, or maybe rise to 80% once January, February, March is allowed to blossom in full way. Income tax is also down. The recovery of the economy, I think in India is going to be V-shaped because we are a very resilient economy. And as far as us, the professionals, chartered accountants and lawyers are concerned, I see that there is at least a 400 to 500% increase in the learning which is happening, even though it is happening online. And the advantage of online is if I can also listen to it later. The rupee has been falling, and maybe with the reduction on oil prices and also the reduced imports, maybe we'll still have some silver lining. Consumers certainly are spending less and saving money. Joshi ji rightly, highlighted that for us, the professionals, where we are a service to the industry and trade, and if they are not doing well, we will not get our money, even if we do the work. Profit reduction is a fact, and longer receivable period, I think for us, as it is, it was long, now it's getting longer, especially for the chartered accountants. The work from home productivity has come down. My estimate that even the people who are really interested in working, who are totally disciplined, cannot give more than 60 to 70%. So productivity is going to come down if work from home continues till we, the professionals, are able to work like the software companies, where they are able to pinpoint and break up the deliverables into smaller points where everything can be measured. For us, it's difficult to measure. The stress on the non-performing assets for bank could ensure that banks are not going to give loans easily. On the other side of it, I see that the healthcare and pharma is booming like anything. COVID-related products are also doing pretty well. This could be some of the positives. I also see that the ITES sector is not that impacted. Maybe because of the required work needs are there, and they are able to provide it remotely without being physically present. One very big opportunity I am seeing is the global resistance to China. In 1974, JA committee had recommended that VAT be implemented in India. And you know that the pro forma credit in 1987 and the mod VAT in pro forma credit in 86 and 87 mod VAT, and then VAT in 2003 in Haryana, and finally in all states by 2007. There was a lot of delay. We missed the bus that time. Hopefully this time we'll not miss the bus. We also, today's newspaper talks about 1 billion investment by Fox.com in Chennai. These are some, I would say, silver linings to the dark clouds which we are seeing. As far as tax and compliance, where all of us who are listening in are involved, I think we have seen that TDS rate decrease, GST deferment of payment. Of course, it is on interest. I would have preferred that it was without interest, or the interest was limited to 1 or 2%, because that is what is the international borrowing rate. Filing relaxations have been given, late fees waiver has been done. And as I said earlier, visits, investigations, etc. are very limited. Audits have also, notices have started, but actual audits possibly will be very few and far between. There possibly is also not that much pressure on recovery of taxes for those who have not been able to pay. The specific industries where I hope government takes a further step could be for the hospitality, rental and hotels. You know, maybe we should take a page out of the German method of ensuring economy keeps going, where the salaries of the impacted people, 60% was paid by the German government for a couple of months. Anyway, I don't know whether India we will be able to do that, or our political will is there to do it, or whether we can afford it. All these questions I leave to the economists. However, one fact is there. Lot of interest is going to come up unless it's waived, and penalties are going to come up again unless there is some relaxation given for that. I'm going to quickly look through some of the aspects many of you would have already thought of. Wherever there are damages and compensation, where contract is terminated, compensation is payable, it may be in the agreement or otherwise. This is a calamity. If you look at it, this has impacted the world much more than the world wars possibly. The deaths possibly also are going to be somewhere in that level or much higher. Maybe one of the other things in relation to this is a relook at Schedule 2, where they talk about a deemed supply, which is toleration of an act or a situation. But as we are aware, by including a deemed supply in Schedule 2, it does not become a supply unless it is a supply as defined retrospectively last year. So if I have no supply, then there is no question of going to Schedule 2. Therefore, possibly damages and compensation are not a supply at all, and consequently there may not be any liability. Chairman, of course, may like to add to this with his vast experience of court. There has to be a positive act of doing or not doing, and I don't think damages could come under that. The Mumbai High Court judgment gave us some relief, but it is before the Supreme Court. Let's see what happens there. Many of the rental agreements are signed for 3 years. Termination by paying 6-month rental, is it possible based on negotiation? Remember, a lot of properties are becoming vacant because people have found that next 6-7 months, they may not be able to work effectively from offices, and that which is a serious issue for all of us professionals. What happens to the ITC to the recipient in case the landlord does not pay the tax? That issue is still being litigated, and I hope that at least for this pandemic period, ITC should be allowed without looking at whether the supplier has actually discharged his tax or his compliance. As long as you have the proper documents and you have received the service, you should be able to take the credit. If I look at discount, one of the ways in which we look at discount, which is going to be there everywhere. Discounts are now a way of life. If a client does not ask for a discount, you will be surprised. In fact, in our office on 1st of April, we announced 25% discount for all our clients for the first quarter. And we have told them that we will continue it for this quarter also. The point was that when we support them to get on their feet, possibly they will not come back and negotiate further. This has not entirely stopped them. Maybe over 10% have still come back and asked for further discounts. But they are those people who got impacted very badly. And we need to support them in these hard times. Maybe we have no choice also. So if I look at discount, can I mention the discount in the invoice? Wonderful. If I can do it that, I reduce the supply value as a discount. I can even call it a COVID discount or a pandemic discount. I don't think anybody can question it. Can I raise an invoice with 100% discount where there is no requirement of payment? This is a question which I do not know whether it will stand the scrutiny of courts. Maybe there are better ways to mitigate this. Supplementary agreements, possibly even with a prior date, could be something which we need to do or look at. And once there is a supplementary agreement, in terms of it, if I am making an invoice, even the post-supply discount for the period which is already over, can I defend that under the law is something which we can look at. All of us provide continuous supply of services in like retainership or concurrent review and audit. These type of activities, possibly this particular method could be thought of. Even though something was not agreed at the time of supply, if something happens later, then can I get back the GST through a credit note from my customer? I think the law as present does not allow it. However, if it is a retainership agreement, I am sure that we can say that in the light of the fact that we are not able to provide the complete service, we are only able to provide part services remotely, maybe it can be called a deficiency of service. Otherwise, it may be difficult. Just financial constraint as of now has not been considered to be a good enough reason. Can we as a body prevail on the government to bring in this particular financial constraint credit note for this period, at least up to March of 2021, is a question left to all of us. If we do not do that, then maybe when we have a supplementary agreement post completion of the supply, there may be disputes, therefore representation is needed. What happens of old inventory? You know, these are all things which are happening today. People are scraping the bottom of the barrel, looking at cash flows. In fact, in our office, till this pandemic happened, we never looked at our TDS refunds. And once this happened in the last 2 months or 3 months, we found there were so many TDS refunds pending, totaling to almost 50-60 lakhs. We started following up on that because that possibly is a better cash flow management than following up with the clients who are already tottering. So what about inventory where it is sold at a discount? I think fiat may not come in, even though there is, this is something we are doing to survive, not for the future. And therefore the fiat judgment, which was very harsh, possibly will not come and stop us from selling old inventory at a lower price. What about employees working from home? Is it a separate fixed establishment if I am not registered in the state? May not be required is what I think. There is going to be interest charged for delayed payment of consideration for sure, and there is a tax liability which will come on that also. The other side of it, in every challenge, there is an opportunity. There is also a benefit in every loss. Maybe a small portion, but can we take ITC on employees' expenses today? Can we relook at some of the things we have not done? We have not taken the credits in the past for our clients, telling them that there is a possible dispute. In this difficult period, possibly the client will be quite happy to take the risk of dispute. Employee stay arrangement, distribution of food, their conveyance, movement, mediclaim as per MHA order. Can all this also be something on which we can take credit? What about insurance already taken? Proportion of that after March, can I avail? There is also possibility that I have to make certain arrangements for my employees who are going to work from home for 6 months or so. I'll pay for the furniture. I will pay for the Wi-Fi which he installs. Maybe something else. Maybe a laptop with a camera, because earlier laptops we used to manage without camera also. And many of us used to manage with desktops. We didn't have laptops. Now we require all this to take our profession, continue to do our profession. I think credit on all this also should be possible. And wherever there is a statutory mandate, you know that the credit is relaxed to a certain extent. What about this ITC reversal payment 180 days? Ideally, this provision should never have been in the law. And I would like my chairman also to comment on this particular 180 days restriction. I do not know why the government gets into the entrepreneurial side of the business. They have failed wherever they have tried to be entrepreneurs. So they should let our entrepreneurs create wealth instead of coming up with barriers and shackles. This is one of the shackles of credit. Anyway, it is there in the law. The word fails to pay. Does it start from the due date of the payment, or does it start from the due date of the supply or invoice? That is a question which some of the people have been discussing. Now that there is a compliance relaxation, would this compliance relaxation also be included for this 180 days calculation? Is something which government may like to clarify. Another one or two thoughts process on this is that we could possibly pay interest and not reverse the credit till 30th June, possible. And that also reverse it under protest, because I think there may be some challenges, and also government itself may like to give some relaxation. Where we get problems when we go for change in negotiation. Say I was supposed to get paid in 90 days, and now I go back to the party and tell him to make it 365 days. Parties may not be willing. Customers, the suppliers may not be willing to renegotiate. There is also the requirement under MSME, statutory requirement of paying early and within time, otherwise reporting. I am sure quite a lot of reporting will happen this year. What about the contribution we make for helping this pandemic? Maybe it's a part of CSR, maybe it's not part of CSR. If it is a part of CSR, can we say it's a statutory obligation supplied in the ordinary course of business, and therefore the ITC on various expenses and equipment which we may share with the hospitals and general public, people who are impacted, would that also be eligible for credit? I think it should be possible to get it. However, The contrary views also are there in that. Again, a brief point from my chairman will help here for us to get clarity. In my understanding, even if it is not a part of CSR, if it is in the course of business and there's tangible evidence that there's a link. For example, in our office, for the last 20 years, we have been taking care of the lesser privileged children. And I am convinced that the fact that we are doing this has added to the pride in the office, the productivity in the office, and the universe. It gives back whatever you give. And it has certainly, we have got more than our share of what is due to us. The next part, is there anything called a gift? Is it not our duty to help the people who are lesser privileged, who are possibly even on deathbed, suffering in this pandemic situation? Should not an organization take care of its environment and community around it? There is certainly a lot of difficulty to claim it, but I don't know. Again, as I said, I hope and expect that the government will be little more lenient this year on this part of it. What about perishable goods? Some of it may be drugs and things like that which have expired. In this, I do not see any silver lining for the finished goods or trading goods. But as far as the manufactured goods are concerned, all the raw material which is put into the production, and once it's put into the production found unusable, then scrapped, the ITC cannot be touched. Of course, on the scrap, you would have to pay the required GST. What about the write-offs? This is going to be there in this situation quite a lot. Can we make a difference between written off and written down? Can we ensure that we don't get rid of the inventory? Number one. And number two, we write it down to maybe a 1% and bring it back as and when it is used. Maybe then there is no need to reverse the tax credit. Today, invoices are not available. I think we have been enabled soft copies, scanned copy of invoice should be possible. What about the invoices prior to our lockdown? Earlier, it was not appearing in 2A. Now it is appearing in 2A. Can I claim it? I would say yes, certainly. There is also a reality that large number of locations of multi-state, I would say, retail units, distribution units have all been contemplating closure or already closed. But when they closed, they might have just closed, and the ITC accumulated in those states. Whether care has been taken to transfer it is something which needs to be seen. There is also some problem in the transfer of credits to a new location, new interstate sometimes. So there are some challenges there. So maybe we need to advise our clients on ensuring that no ITC is lost when any location is closed. I come to the crux of the subject which was given to me. I think that in the interim, because I will call it interim till December and maybe even March, we are finally working the way we were working in January of 2019. 2020. Many of us in our anxiety, looking at our priorities, client comes first, growing practice, we may not have looked too much on important aspects of life, important aspects of practice also. While we know many good things are there, I should not gain weight, I should do regular exercise, I should also, make myself stronger and stronger academically, more knowledgeable, more skilled. Maybe I never got the time in the rat race which I was running. maybe this is the time where it is possible. Many of us have this thought process. I am locked inside my house. What can I do exercise? When I had asked the doctor about 5-6 years back, I told him that I travel a lot and I am not able to get time to exercise. He says, does the hospital, does the hotel which you stay, in the room, is there 10 feet space? I said, yes, it is there. So he said, do it 500 times. 500 times, you go the 10 feet, you have finished 5,000 feet. Do this twice a day, it should be enough. He was quite a matter-of-fact doctor, no nonsense guy. And I started thinking, yes, it is true. So even in this pandemic, we can keep ourselves fit. Maybe skipping can be done. If I don't have a skipping rope, or a rope may be enough. Weights can be done. I think we have enough things at home to do weights. Stretching, yoga, I can see many. Online, almost the resources in online for us to develop ourselves, whether it is English communication, whether it is GST, whether it is international law, whether it is allied laws, whether it is the latest decisions in the Supreme Court, we have enough time to do all this. We can even set up joint learning sessions. And we've done quite a lot of that in this period. We also looked at proactive fee reduction gives a good method of preempting the client from coming and asking for atrocious amounts. Everybody is a human being. When proactively, without asking if you have reduced something, maybe the client will not come back and ask. Many of you may be skeptical, but what we did in our office is a proof of concept, where out of maybe 100 clients, if I were having, hardly 2 of them came for further negotiation. We also did something, value adds for past services. So this can be in various aspects. Say it is for audits which were completed for 17-18. We looked at what all we missed out at that time. And when we read the latest books which are available, Kindle versions also are available of many books, we come to know that we could have done much better. Why not go back and do that also? What about the services in the present? For the present, which client may not look at, but can you look at it proactively where there is a value add? He can save some money, or he can see future saving of money. Can we get the client's staff well trained in this period? Because anyway, we have time, they also have time. Only thing, you have to use an online method like this, which we are using right now. All of us have brilliant ideas. Many of the brilliant ideas are in the back burner. Can we take it further in this period? Go back, meditate, close your eyes, look at your old notes. You will get a lot of ideas which you had, which have been jettisoned or put away. In my introduction, so many books were mentioned. Let me tell you that many of these books we had jettisoned. We had thought we cannot do it. For example, tackling GST problems, I have to look at least 2,000 problems, obviously 2,000 answers. If I look at procedures, it's not going to be less than 2,000-3,000 pages. Departmental audit is still to start. Can we look at what they would be looking at? Judicial precedents. We started it because we felt we are predominantly into audit reviews, though we have significant litigation share in Karnataka and Telangana. We thought that why not take this chance to learn? So we had a 20-day, every day, 8:30 to 10:30. We looked up all the landmark cases in each area of GST. It was a wonderful experience, at least for me. Knowledge and skill enhancements also can happen at all levels. Can we also pool resources? In fact, this networking concept we launched only on 1st of July this month in Karnataka, Goa and Kerala. And possibly by the end of this month, we will launch it for North India. What is this? What is this? Why did this come about at this time? It came about because we realized that there is a lot of captive time available everywhere. That can be possibly leveraged now for us to ensure that tier 2 cities which are doing pretty well now. Let me tell you, only we in the metros are having a much worse time. The smaller areas, the tier 2 cities have been doing very well. Considering the pandemic, of course, compared to the metros, they are flying. Collaboration with various people, chartered accountants, with advocates, skill in drafting. Now, this can be a win-win. Client wants to look at a agreement which he had, and because of the pandemic, he wants to change it. Can I not collaborate with an advocate? A good drafting done. What about cost reduction? We can look at cost reduction everywhere. We as chartered accountants may not be very aggressive. We may be conservative. Nothing wrong in ensuring that everywhere there is a reduction. For example, for us, rent is a very big cost. Salaries is a big cost. Can we cut salaries where the income has 10%? Can we defer the salaries where we think that by the end of the year, we will come back to at least 60-70% of our working of last year's income? If we think like that, can we defer it? Similarly, for other expenses, either cut or defer. Normally, I have seen that this is possible, but then it has to be in writing, and it cannot be all these oral. Doesn't work. That's what I have seen. Can we look at deliverables? Till now, we as a community of professionals have not looked at monitoring or do not have a systematic method of evaluation of the turnaround time. We have not looked at quality other than at the end. So what happens is that I can give an opinion in 2 days, which is very good. I can give an excellent opinion in 1 month. But then, what is it that we want our staff to do? Can we give him 1 month for an opinion? Then the opinion, our billing for the opinion will be 1/3 his salary, especially in this period. Maybe it's also a good time to look at deadwood evaluation. We have been carrying around a lot of people who are negativist, negative-minded, who don't contribute. We have never looked at it till now because we were busy in our rat race. Can we look at all this and either ask them to buck up or ship out? But checking the deliverables is not a joke, let me tell you. We ourselves have done a lot of work on this, but I cannot tell you that I am at a point where I'm comfortable with the balanced way in which I'm able to monitor deliverables. Can I standardize some of the processes? We know the way to do something. For example, there is a synopsis all of us prepare before we go for the hearing. This synopsis is prepared hurriedly once the hearing date is fixed. Can we do it a little earlier? Can we do it for all the clients now? Because we don't have much work. Get the synopsis ready. Once the hearing comes, then we can look at it further. Can we follow technical standards as far as audit is concerned? Internal control, which we used to defocus in GST. Can we refocus on internal control, use of checklists? If we don't have checklists, can we prepare a checklist? Checklists are available in standard books. Like our audit book has all the checklists for audit. Can we look at adopting automation for our clients? Some of our clients are little in the unorganized sector. They may be pretty big, but still they are little old. And like me and Joshi ji, we are not so tech savvy. Though we have the idea that it should be there, physically we cannot do things so easily. So can we advise automation for client? Can we automate ourselves? In fact, this question also we asked ourselves. And then we have collaborated with the software. And I find that a work which was able to be done in 5 days, say the follow-up of, I would say, with suppliers for compliance. That is the 2A versus 3B. For an average client of 100 crores, earlier it might have taken 4 or 5 days. Now it takes 20 minutes. 20 minutes to get the extract. After that, of course, it may take a day to look at the exception report and make sense out of it. We have also looked at many softwares which are available. In fact, Microsoft 365, which we use in our office, has a software called Teams, and we can join up to 500. So all our internal training happens on that. Even for our clients, we can use that. Sometimes, of course, we use Zoom and web, other video conferencing, what you could say, solutions which have become available at reasonable costs nowadays. Maybe we can even look at some of the higher end ones like, the Cisco WebEx. Not very expensive. I was surprised. Initially, I thought it will be lakhs of rupees. And I found that it is very, very reasonable for us, for a concern like us. We did webinars for clients specific. For example, if we have clients in the IT sector, we did webinars for them specifically. For those in the real estate sector, we did. This is something which we can look at wherever large number of clients are there. We also did some general seminars for our clients only, where public was not there. All these video recorded material is also given access to all the clients where they have not been able to attend. This has given a lot of, I would say, nice feeling about our firm for the client, and possibly we are looking at not losing them at all. So that means losing of client in this pandemic, we might be able to avoid by doing such things. For the general public and also our clients, we had certificate courses in GST, basic certificate courses. We had 2 in this pandemic, 1 advanced course also finished. All of this again we have given to public, available for them at some nominal cost to learn themselves. Internal training for knowledge, we have put up a target that the entire 250 people, whether they are administration, articles, whether in litigation department, in assistance department, audit department, the advisory department, everyone, including the partners, we have made a program to train them in knowledge.
Self-introspection.
Yeah. Expand desk review that I already mentioned. We are able to do 70% of the work of audits at our office, whether it is the mandatory audit or the other audits. Sometimes this knowledge capture, we have also seen that in the past, capture of knowledge never used to happen. Knowledge is there with the senior, it remains with the senior, and he doesn't have time to share it unless specific questions are asked. Now we have found this knowledge capturing. We have brought in experts from various segments, outside speakers, so that knowledge capture, new knowledge is being gained. What about HR? We, the professionals who are in chartered accountants and advocates, we may not have looked at HR practices at all or management practices. Can we do some of these courses? Many of them are free, many of them very nominal. Joshiji was also mentioning, that we are losing touch with the clients. We need not. In fact, this is the time when you can have more touch with the clients. I normally was, since I'm on the top of the organization, senior partner and all that, I hardly talk to the clients. In this pandemic, I have had the opportunity of talking to at least 20 times the number of clients I normally used to talk to. All old clients with whom we might or might not be in touch. Maybe we can get in touch. This is something we can do in the interim. Plus present clients, more interaction to understand their challenges, and the fact that you are interested in them and interested in serving them will also bring down the resistance for them to give you the information and support you in completing your work for them. So what is it that we as a office did? Some of it I mentioned already. Quality reduction on 1st of April, we sent to each and every client of ours. We looked at aspects of job incomplete in the past, whether that was relating to, maybe a reply we made, maybe something we missed out, one legal aspect we have missed out. So review it. That aspect, send additional submissions because your PH has not been fixed. Appeal. Similarly, what about if nothing is to be left out, can I make a synopsis of all the appeals pending with me so that as and when it comes, it will be much easier for me? We also did some pro bono work, value-added services which we can do remotely. Anyway, it was not a loss for us because we had the people who came to office or are available at home, but they have nothing to do. So we gave them some work, pro bono service, client happy. We kept the staff engaged and we kept in touch with the client. We did around 25 webinars, as I mentioned in the past, and 13-day courses. We did 3 of them. Books, I think we have already heard about what is being done. We also started this internal process, including quality control. We made checklists for quality control. What is exactly quality? And I myself had a lot of learning in this last 3 months period of what exactly can be said to be quality and what is just monitoring for effectiveness. I will just put off my video. Yeah. So this was also something we did. What we further did is we identified all old clients who are not availing our services. One-to-one client challenges inquiry used to offer more services to those already with us. We have invested in information technology, not too much, but enough. For example, in office, we have done something, but at home, it has not happened. We have also seen whether we can use technology to ensure that all our staff who's sitting maybe in rural area is able to access the correct files. The aspect of monitoring has increased tremendously. Earlier, I would say that once in a way, some monitoring was done. Now it is almost a daily monitoring by the team leaders and daily monitoring of the partners of the team leaders. Other than that, partners itself, we have been monitoring where we are going very closely. As I said, for VC, we are using Teams, thinking of going for WebEx for training and communication. We are attempting to evaluate contribution in time and work, whether it is linked to our client deliverable or it's linked to a book or writing an article, and we have linked it to the salary deferral boss and cut. We are also focusing more on where the money is one client is able to pay, which is in the area of refunds, MEIS, SEIS, GST refund. Government also has helped us by setting up certain facilities where it's coming faster. And here is where recovery of fees also is faster. Obviously, when you give the money to the client, along with that, you give him a bill, more likely he will clear that bill of yours in that feeling of gratitude. And after that, of course, he will think, why should I have paid them? I could have paid something else. So we have also looked at our website, which was static for a long time. Not much development on our website was done. So we updated around 70 old articles, made it current for 2020. We also got into joint study for understanding those aspects which as chartered accountants, we don't understand. We put a group of lawyers like Joshi ji and some younger lawyers also. Judicial precedent analysis, we put all of them together, did a joint study for around 40 odd hours for all the seniors in office. What we didn't do till now, which we still plan to do, is that use AnyDesk, so that once we have AnyDesk installed in the server, then we can open our laptop and it will be as good as opening the having a link to the server. The OneDrive facility which is there, Google Drive facility which is there, TeamViewer facility which is there. Some of our younger, I would say not younger partners, and of course all the qualifieds, they are using all this. People like me are still to start using it. We have not started using software to monitor and track except the time sheets. We've started analyzing, but we have not been able to put anything else in place. We are still looking for some software. Training, training is a very important aspect which we focused on. But if somebody leaves in between or just puts it on and watches a movie, then what happens? Maybe use of random quizzes in between the training session would ensure that the employees are on. And if they are not on, then there can be a salary cut because they are not keeping themselves up to date. And we are spending so much of time and effort. Maybe we can also use the administrative capability, which in this period is totally free. If you look at our front desk, in an office which is having 25 people, there'll be 3 people at least who are the administrators. Are we using them now? How can we get them ready? Maybe you should look at what all you require for your office and maybe look at it. This is also a time when all of you must have been inundated with the large amount of data, people looking for work, whether it's BCom, advocate, chartered accountant, article. Huge amount of biodatas are coming. Can we look at making a win-win-win situation? Number one, the person, can we take him as a trainee? I don't require him actually, but let me take him as a trainee. I'll pay him articles amount, 10,000 a month. For this period only, not forever. I'll take him as a trainee. He'll work from home. And I will give him the jobs and see how he delivers. I will put him onto all our online learning, which he will go through. After 2 months, I can see where he is. If he's doing very well, maybe the trainee fee can be converted into a regular work from home salary. Work from home salary, we have also thought that it should be 20% less than the work from office salary, because there is invariably some amount of distraction which nobody can avoid. And all of us are human beings after all. So filling in vacancies with qualified trainee ensures, number one, that you are getting ready for that peak. When the work comes, once this pandemic is over, my chairman expects September, and I would like to hope and pray for that. But I think it's most probably going to be December or later. And if it is so, then it is a facility for giving that service to the clients in time and getting ready for the future. Maybe after 4 months, 5 months, when the person is doing pretty well, I make him a regular, take him on my roles as a regular employee. This is the thought process which has come after this large number of, resumes which are flooding our inboxes. It will also be a good thing for them because they're getting on-the-job exposure instead of sitting at home and watching TVs and playing video games, or being on that whatever WhatsApp and etc., Instagram. Maybe these are the plans which we have not done, which we are in the course of doing. There may be many more things we can do, and I think that I have completed what I thought best I could give. Most of it is actually common sense, but only when you implement an idea and make it work, you see the result. Many of us have got good ideas. We have not planned to put it in place, structured, not put in place to make it work. And therefore it remains an idea. Some of us put a structure in place. At the first roadblock, we stopped and said, this cannot work. So there also we might have got not much of benefit. Those of us which said, okay, what is the roadblock? Can we remove this roadblock? I'm sitting at home. Can I do something more? You will be surprised. Brainstorm with your younger staff in your office and many solutions will come to you. In fact, in this period, we also started a small research group And after about a month, I joined the research group and asked them, what did you do and what did you learn? And whatever they told me, at least 4 points were points which I never were possible. The sources which they reached, I didn't know it was there. Wonderful exercise for them and wonderful exercise for all of us who interacted with them. With this, I would like to thank all of you professional ladies and gentlemen. Hope you are safe. Empower yourself, keep yourself healthy. And, as I say, once the lockdown opens, flourish. And may all of us reach the dreams which we are all thinking of. Thank you very much. Over to the organizers.
Thank you, Speaker Sir, for such a nice presentation. You have gone into the practicalities that one is facing as on the day. I now invite our Chairman Sir, Sri P.C. Joshi, to share his concluding remarks, and later on we shall go for question and answer session as the time permits. Mr. Joshi, sir.
Yes. I must thank Mr. Hiragange for doing a wonderful job on the subject which I thought it is only a general nature. Yes, really as a chartered accountant, he has gone deep in the subject, and I must compliment him for doing his job for us. But I would suggest at the outset, my one more idea which I left out is this. Then when you're talking about taking stock of what we have been able to do and what we could not do during this period, ask seniors in your profession, with your, if you have got a firm of, say, 10 people, there may be senior 2 or 3. So ask those 2 or 3 people to write down biography, their own biography, how they started with the practice, what were the problems they faced, and how did they circumvent those problems, and how did they reach the present status. It may not be that important as far as the practice is concerned, but then it will give an enormous learning as to how you start your practice. Because it is okay everywhere where you get the seniors, fine. But there may be practitioners who may be trying to start his own career presently. Then whoever is the senior, if that biography is available, it will be really a motivating factor for a new person in profession that will give a good link as to how to face the problems which they may not realize, but the seniors may have already circumvented that by their own ideas. This is something which, out of law, it is not stated anywhere in the law, but this is something which it will give you an enormous value-added information to the younger generation. It may not be, because for me, it makes no difference whether I earn X amount or Y amount, because it's a fag end of the career. But for those people who are starting with the career, how did I start? What were the problems which I faced? How did I get the clients, so many clients? What were the repercussions? How did you negotiate with the salary? Your fees. What were the factors that were considered? Those are all things which we all professionals must consider and learn from seniors. Because, to err is human, it's okay. But when we have got the ready material from seniors who have already gone through those problems, then we must try to get the advantage of those professional people who will be able to a great guide for us. Then about the contracts he referred to, I must say, as far as the non-compliance of the terms of the contract because of the pandemic period, it will be a fake measure, and it will be a factor which will have to be considered by both of them, by both the parties. The person who expects the job and the person who wants to give, because that's something which everybody will understand. That's something which is beyond your control. You could not comply with the terms of the contract. So that's something which everybody will look at it. Then about the ITC, it's a great havoc, I would say. It's a great havoc. Section 16 provides for 16.1, I would say. 16.1 provides for every registered person to claim claim ITC for the taxes paid while effecting inward supply. Inward supply means that it purchases or receiving these services. Now, you make the payment. As a recipient, you make the payment for the service done to the person. But what is the remedy for me if the person, the supplier doesn't make the payment, and then ultimately my ITC is disallowed? What is the control as far as the recipient is concerned over the supplier? And the best solution which I have thought of is that the law should be amended in such a manner that the recipient should pay the tax directly into the government treasury for and on behalf of the supplier. And then the supplier would be given the certificate of payment. So this will solve the problem of compliance at all, because you yourself, before making the payment of consideration to the supplier, would be paying part thereof as the tax in the government treasury for and on behalf of the supplier, which along with the payment, you send the certificate of payment. I mean, along with the payment of consideration, you send the payment of payment to the government treasury also. This will solve permanently the problems which we are facing at times, and many of the litigations could be solved, stopped, I would say, when this provision is introduced. I would say this is something which the council should understand. Council should make that, and then making the 180 days. You know, there may be 100 problems for not making the payment within 180 days. There may be financial problems. There may be suddenly I may be in the hospital. There may be 100 cases, 100 reasons for not making the 180 days. But this, in fact, as Hiranka rightly pointed out, this type of limitation should not appear in the taxation statute. Should not be, because it is left to the what you call supplier and the recipient. It's an agreement between the supplier and the recipient. Whether recipient makes the payment or not, the supply of services done. Taxable event has already taken place. As far as the government is concerned, it don't lose anything. But asking that the recipient should make the payment within a particular time, I think that is too much enforcement, which is not possible, according to me. Now then comes ITC. Yes, you see, I would say ITC is claimable for all activities inward which is used in the course of business or in furtherance of business. If these two are qualified, and if these inward supplies which I have received, and if I use it, though unlike VAT, it is not linked up. ITC is now not linked up with the output services or output supply. But so long as those are proved to be, it can be proved to be in the course of business or in furtherance of business. Business includes profession also. Business, then ITC, according to me, should be available, whether the department like it or not. Then transfer of credit to new location. Yes, it is possible. I mean, you don't lose anything. Once the ITC is legally available, simply because I have closed my business from one place to and I have shifted to, doesn't mean that you lose your ITC. Then I must compliment Mr. Hiragange for showing the ways how to keep ourselves healthy. In fact, let me share with you, I have been, whenever I go out in a hotel, etc., wherever room, I do it. But even at home also, I definitely, since last many years, I am doing yoga. Yoga plus maximum quantity of water. You have your water, more water, and especially when the water is kept in a copper utensil overnight, and that will be keep yourself healthy. And at least I forgot with the God's blessing, I would say, as on today, I'm okay, though I am now 85. So, I mean, this is something for your information that you must exercise, and then you must think of what pranayam. Pranayam also will give you a lot of healthy points. These three things: enough water, more than one, enough water, yoga, and pranayam. These three things should be a routine matter for all the individuals, whether he is a professional or not. Then only he will be able to be a healthy person, unaffected by COVID. Then about the training of, it's a good suggestion that during this period, you can train the staff of the clients by webinar, etc. It's a good suggestion, and I think it's something which we all think and think of. Then cutting of salaries, I think equitably and morally, it is not feasible, it is not workable. Or because ultimately the staff has to be considered as your own family. You have to look after their family, and they should be part of your family. If this outlook is done, and I'm sure the employees also will give much better result than what we expect, as if they are doing for their own business. Then only thing we can do is, instead of cutting the salary, you can think of, you can defer the recruitment of new hands. That you can defer. So that way we can do it. I think I have commented what I could during the short time which is available. If the organizers want me to comment on any of the queries, I would be happy to contribute. I would be happy to share my experience, I would say, not the knowledge, because nobody can claim to be a perfect person. And if anybody says that I know the law, that's not correct. And for learning, any age is always a learning. I always learn from a small child also, you learn a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for sharing your own personal experiences also and guiding everyone present over here how to lead a good and healthy life. Thank you, sir. I think you have touched all the aspects and all the points that our speaker sir had covered. Most of them have been covered by you also. So we are very grateful to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very
yeah.
much.
Yes, sir. Now we'll take some questions. There are around 4 questions that has come. Shri Madhukarji, can we start right now? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first question is, if an organization say ABC Limited have transactions in Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh. For one transaction, ABC Limited gets an advance ruling, say from Maharashtra. So will the advance ruling equally be applicable to similar transaction in other states, or will it has to get an advance ruling from every state separately?
Sir, first of all, as Joshi ji had said, I don't know why advance ruling has any impact at all. In fact, in my understanding, advance ruling is something to be used only in exception where I want to prove something to my customer. My customer is a government enterprise and they are going to be by advance ruling, only then I should go for advance ruling. Number one, the quality of advance ruling, as you would have seen in this number of years, is not poor. It is very poor.
Correct.
They will refer to so many cases, absolutely not discuss that case. They don't even say that it's not applicable. They enumerate all the cases of the past which you have put forward without giving a reason why that case does not apply. They give their own view. They give their view, not judicial view. They give their own view. So, first of all, I think client should not go for advance ruling. If at all you go for advance ruling, it should be only as a route to take it to the High Court and get clarity at the Supreme Court. That's all.
Same thing I suggested.
Yeah.
Same thing you said, sir.
Yeah.
So here in your case, if you got an advance ruling in your which you are okay with in one state, you can say that this applies to me everywhere because it's applicable to the SSC. And anywhere else, if the officer objects, give him the advance ruling and tell him this is the advance ruling I have got. And please take an opinion from your legal department whether you should follow or not follow. I think if you got a favorable ruling, you can use it very well. Say it's not favorable, then you need to appeal. Okay. And remember that advance ruling, which I have gone for, is not at all applicable to you. So just because advance ruling now, earlier Supreme Court decisions in indirect taxes were not reported in newspaper. Now you have advance ruling being reported in the business news. You know, if you look at Economic Times or you look at Business Line, one third of the page on advance ruling. Parota is this thing not play or that. It has become ridiculous, let me tell you. And we are the people who know advance ruling has no value. So if we have to analyze, we should analyze High Court decisions or Supreme Court decisions. And this is my answer.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I would request other people to please be on mute. I think so. There are certain disturbances coming right now. So we'll go to the second question. This is regarding the rent payment. So what if lessee doesn't pay rent for the month of April and May as agreed between parties, but bill has to be issued? So whether we have to issue the bill or what?
As of now, there is no relaxation on issuing of the bill or the payment of GST.
That means GST will have to.
What I'm saying is that why can't you get into a supplementary agreement that in the period of the pandemic, depending on the occupancy and the business, the billing would be done as mutually decided. Can you make this change? And I assuming that this type of understanding between a lessee and the lessor will probably hold good. And if it holds good, then you can make the bill only when you get the receipt, when the payments are coming, to the extent of payment. Can this be done in this interim as a pandemic supplementary agreement?
No, but Mr. Hirangange, renting of property is already a service rendered. Service rendered.
At all.
Yeah.
I was not in my office. You own the building. I have not gone to office from March.
Maybe, but so what?
Not gone.
I'm
I'm
not
not used
concerned whether you work or not. I am the owner and I must get the compensation of your occupation.
Sir, I didn't occupy. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You are not able to give me the service is my argument. If you are agreeable, do this. Next.
Next question is whether ITC paid on COVID-19 insurance provided to employees be allowed to employer by amending proviso to subclause B of clause AB to section 17 subsection 5. Since till date certain class of employers are under mandatory obligation to provide insurance to employees. Please enlighten.
Yeah, I think now with this MHA guidelines, every employer is eligible for that credit because it's mandated under law. So your insurance, ITC on that insurance for this pandemic which has come, which all of us are taking for our employees or already taken for our employees, certainly will be eligible for credit. That restriction will not apply because there is a mandate under law.
Okay.
Next.
Thank you, sir. These were the main questions because even we have to just go for a concluding remarks and vote of thanks now.
I know.
Yeah. So I would quickly invite Shri C.L. Bhanushali, past president of Tax Practitioner Association, Thane, to present vote of thanks to our esteemed guests. Mr. Bhanushali, please.
Thank you, Harish. Hello, good morning to all. It's my pleasure to propose the vote of thanks for this session. The roadmap for GST past COVID-19 is a vast topic, and our chairman, senior advocate Sri P.C. Joshi, and our speaker, C.M. Madhukar Hirgange, have shown a bright and positive future post this period of COVID-19. As per Joshi sir, we will be Azad on 15th August. Sir, right now? Yeah. On behalf of all the association, we would like to thank them to sparing their valuable time and sharing their views and ideas with us. Thank you to the organizer for the opportunity and happy learning to all. Thank you once again to Senior Advocate Sri P.C. Joshi sir and C.A. Madhukar Hirgange sir. Thank you.